welcome back to Opposites Attract podcast. This is Sonia Ramirez, your girl, and I'm sitting next to
Miguel Ramirez.
What's up, everybody? How is your day?
How was your week?
How is your life?
Going. And make sure you guys go to our website, oppositesattractpodcast.com, and share it with the people that you know.
Why are you yelling at me?
Is that better? Is that better?
Okay.
That's better.
That's better.
And yeah, like we've said before, the best thing you can do is share some clips with somebody. Tell them to like, subscribe, comment. You guys comment, subscribe, like, all that stuff. Find the clips channel, share a clip. Find the clickbait stuff that we put out there. And let the algorithm do what it do.
Do what it do.
Yep.
So the first thing I was thinking when we got on here is that we've been having many deep conversations.
Yeah.
Like every day almost.
Yeah.
And when we try to bring it to you guys after we've spoken about it, I don't know if it's this. Is it the same? You know, because we've already talked about it.
No, it's never the same. It's just not.
But we're going to do our best to bring it to you and be in that moment. The moment that we were in when we first discussed it.
We always try to.
Right? We do.
Yeah.
But
You know, like the truth is that there's times that we talk about things that we're always just like, we should be recording right now.
Right.
But then there's all other times where we get into stuff while we're recording.
True.
And that's just not going to be recreated either because it just happened in the moment, you know?
Right. And it never comes out like the same. But I'm going to do my best to take myself back into that space.
If me and you got into a conversation on here and then you go to tell your friend about it 2 days from now, it's not going to be the same as when me and you were talking about it on here.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Right? That's just how it is.
So we've been talking, or I've been listening to that Demon Haunted World book.
By Carl Sagan.
By Carl Sagan.
Sounds way worse than like what
no, it
the
really
title
does.
sounds bad.
Yes.
So that's not, yeah, go ahead, babe.
And I don't know if I mentioned this on the previous podcast, but I was listening to it and what it was saying, and I had a feeling where I was questioning whether I wanted to go on listening to the book.
So, yes. And the name of the book is Demon Haunted World, Science as a Candle in the Dark. So, I never even really thought about the title of the book. But the Demon Haunted World, like if you think of like a nightmare or what a kid would be scared of, being scared of the dark, right? Mm-hmm. And then having the belief that there's demons out there, that the world is haunted and it's dark. Right? And you don't know what's in the dark. Mm-hmm. And the candle, it's science as a candle in the dark. And it's revealing
That's funny,
what is.
Because in the Bible, there's a verse.
Is there? It's probably it might be from the Bible.
That states, I don't know it like word for word, but it's basically stating, be the light in the darkness. Right? Like you're not going to have,
be what it's
you're not
related
going to put a canter underneath, like where you can't see it. You want to put it on top of a hill so that everyone can see it. But I don't remember the verse like exactly how, as it states, but it's pretty much that. And you hear me say it. I am the light. And I tell, be the light in the darkness.
Yeah.
Right? So that's funny because I didn't read the title either. The Demon Haunted World. When you told me the name of it, I'm like,
it doesn't sound like something you want to listen to.
That.
Yeah.
But you kept telling me I feel that you should, that you should listen to it, So then I decided to listen to it. And so it talks about a lot. Like recently it's talking about how like our school system and the things that are not being taught in our school system and how we are like, our educational system sucks here in the US. Like, it's just horrible when you compare our stats to China.
Right.
And the lack of importance we put on science in our educational system.
And also the value that we put on being skeptical.
Right. Yeah.
Because one of the things that they were talking about was how if you're not willing to change and question things, then you're going to get left behind. And by left behind, they mean like as the kids grow up, they're going to see that what they're being taught doesn't add up to what's out in reality. Right? And the education system just gets left behind because the kids they're like, yeah, you guys are teaching us this, but we see what's happening out in the world. And it doesn't add up to the same. And we don't believe you anymore.
Right. And it talks about that generation losing respect for the older generation.
Yeah, you could see how that could happen.
And I can see how that can happen as well.
Yeah. And it all stems from questioning. Right. Like being able to just question things. Like, what is wrong with questioning things? There shouldn't be anything wrong with that.
And he was talking about questioning like spirituality, questioning, like some believe in stones, right? Like stones have healing effects.
Yeah, properties, whatever.
And just questioning things. So it got me thinking about the events that I have experienced, my spiritual experiences, and the one in India, which I mentioned, I think, on the last podcast. But getting into all of that, I got to a point where I started thinking about like my first experience and I'm learning right now, relearning, like rereading how the mind works with the subconscious mind, conscious mind, unconscious mind, and really diving deep into that because I just got done with a speaking engagement, which I'll get into a little later. But I'm also looking at getting certified in neurolinguistics programming, which also talks about...
You're doing all of it at the same time. And listening to this book.
Yeah, which also talks about the mind and how to reprogram the mind.
Which is kind of good because it all goes hand in hand.
Right. And so I'm having a better understanding on that. And so I wanted to look into some of that with the experiences that I've had and maybe how I could have created some of that.
Or how they could be explained or whatever.
Right. So just looking into that, and I could see how my very first experience in 2013, where I felt my sister's presence, how I could have possibly created that emotion and got me into that state of, like just, I don't even know. I can't even explain the state that I was in, but it was I can't explain the state I was in, but I can see how a thought, like, because I was like, my sister Diane likes to play tricks, right? She's like a jokester. So immediately, like when I put that into my being, I could have seen,
it reminded you of her.
How, right. And I don't know, like that's a long shot, but it could be possible. Right. Because I can't, and I shared this with you, like you are not me to understand
what that was,
what I experienced. I've never experienced anything like that or felt anything like that. And it felt very, very real.
Yeah.
And so, but again, I can, see how there is a possibility that could have been, right? That thought, the feeling, losing her, just all of that could have created that. But then I went on to another experience that was connected to that in church. And there's nothing that can explain that. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no way that guy knew what I heard when I heard, like, and it's not a hearing. It was more of an internal feeling. I can't explain this of I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. But I felt her. It was without a doubt. I felt her. And then to go to the church and then have that weird experience.
Yeah.
Like so there's still that can't be explained. And there's no way I can possibly explain what happened.
You're right. It can't be explained.
Yeah. So that's the unknown, right? Just not knowing what that is. That there's a possibility that there is more than what
and that I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you was your sister.
I felt every part of my being that it was her. Because I'm thinking to myself, if it was my higher consciousness or my higher self speaking to me, like, right? Speaking to me, where would have that came from? Within me.
Right. You know, and then we were talking about this yesterday, right? And these are things that kind of like the soul. We were talking about the soul too.
Right.
That you have a belief in. You have to have a belief in because there is no evidence for a soul.
What do you mean you have to have a belief in? Are you talking to me? Are you
No, that if you believe that there is a soul, that you have a soul, that there are souls out there, you have to have a belief in a soul.
Right.
In a spirit, right? Which is something that cannot be, like, there is zero evidence for any of that.
Right. There's just people that state that they've had near life death experiences and stuff like that, but one's actually studied it, or there's no evidence. And the studies that have been done, even if there's few, haven't shown any evidence of there being a soul. Because if there was, it'd be pretty significant, I would think. Mm-hmm. I don't think you could hide if you had real evidence for a soul, because that would probably mean that there's an afterlife. And if you have that kind of evidence, I don't think you can hide that. It would be out there. Because we would be working towards that, right? Because then there is something more important. What are we doing after this? Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with, like, energy, right?
Right?
Like,
so none of these things, you have to have a belief, a faith. Mm-hmm. And so just like you were saying, like, where does this come from? Like, where does the soul come from? Like, because I feel that when we were kind of talking about all these things, if this feeling, this thing, whatever you experience that you had came from your sister, then it has to be possible that there are souls out there.
Right. Spirits.
But if it's also possible that there are souls out there, then it may also be possible that people can levitate. Why no, but why couldn't people?
Yeah, I don't know.
It may also be possible that people can read each other's minds. It may also be, like, you start getting into all these things. So how?
And we've talked about that, the telepathy, right?
Did that happen?
Yeah. I don't know. Just like I don't know, like, the telepathy. We've talked about this, right? The telepathy.
And there's no evidence for any of these things.
That you've experienced it with me.
What?
Telepathy.
That's different.
Right?
That's not exactly the same.
As what?
What you're talking about, telepathy, where that I'm sure can be studied and shown. Where when you're married to somebody, we weren't doing that shit in the beginning.
No.
We weren't finishing each other's sentences in the beginning.
And
it took years.
Right? Right? But as I shared with you, I have experienced that with strangers that I have not been married to for 16 years.
And that's what I'm talking about. That there isn't evidence of how that's, well, they are starting to like study some things like mirror neurons. I started looking some of that stuff up. But either way, what I'm saying is the telepathy where somebody can just read somebody else's thoughts is one thing. Like what you're doing, I believe you have a gift and you have something. People are good at certain things and some people don't even know how they're good at it. They just do it naturally. Mm-hmm. And you read people in a way that other people can't. You may feel that it's like a spiritual thing, and that is fine. That's your belief. I don't believe that that is the case. I believe that you're doing something. Your brain, your eyes, your everything is how can we get signals? Through smell, through whatever the fuck.
Senses.
Who the hell knows?
Yeah, our six senses.
Right? Because we keep learning more and more stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing something. You're experiencing another being, another person. You're taking in their information, regardless of how you're getting it, whether you can tell how or not, but you feel it's a spiritual thing. I feel that in the future, if they study it long enough and well enough, they'll be able to find. And now you're finding with your programs that you're learning that some of this stuff can be explained.
Right.
Right? There are some things that you felt that were kind of spiritual that, holy shit, maybe I can actually work on these things.
Right.
It's not so like I do it naturally, but it's not natural for everybody, and you can learn this.
Right. And they were also talking about in the book about like hypnosis and how that works. And I experienced it with the the NLP program on how that can be, and the placebo pill. Right.
Yeah.
And how there are things like in the Bible where certain, where Jesus had, I can't remember again the verse, but walking, there's this woman who touches his cloak and he says, because you believed, you are healed.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
And so I'm learning the power of the mind and how powerful we actually are. And when you believe, and believing is like faith and belief, like when those two combine, there's certain things that you can do to heal.
Yeah, possibly.
Being in the right state of mind.
Right. Yeah, like a placebo, like you said. Yeah.
Like stuttering, or, someone who has uncontrollably like that shaking of the leg.
Right. No, and we've talked about that. But is that the only way? I think we were having this conversation with something about religion, like somebody that was in a tough spot and religion kind of pulled them out of it. Right?
Oh, yeah. I was talking to a really good friend of ours who had that experience. And we have so many examples of that.
But it seems like it was great that religion pulled them out of whatever it was that it pulled them out of, or got them to a little bit better of a better place. But sometimes that same religion has now brainwashed them and is holding them back.
Right. No, we were talking about, you were talking to me about like the spectrum of religion
and what I was talking about, like that, can you not do it without religion? Is it not possible to pull yourself, like, what about logically? Like if you just think about like what has happened in my life, instead of putting it all on God and Jesus and all this other stuff, it's like, dude, what the fuck is going on? Like, why am I always falling into the same shit? Why does and you sit down and like really think of, like, you don't think you could figure it out and get out of stuff? If maybe somebody could guide you and you had some help? I mean, that seems like that's what happens at church too. Like you'll go and meet a bunch of people that seem to be nice, that care about each other, and they help each other out.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think you could do it without. You know, like when I've mentioned on here before, where back in the day, like people have lost children forever. And I as a parent, I think like that's probably the hardest thing that you can ever go through.
Right.
And so many people I hear say, I couldn't have gone through that without God.
Right.
But I always feel like you only say that because you have God.
Right.
Because you have no clue what you could go through if you didn't have it. I have a feeling that you would still be, and maybe some people do, some people don't. But I don't think it's the only way.
So, in those situations,
And I don't think it's the
when
truth.
you are alone, you feel you're alone, you have no family, you don't have an association, mentors, whatever, to help you out of that situation. You've mentioned it before. We are not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
It's almost like a need.
Yeah.
Really. Like it's almost like a need. And for them at that moment, that is what they need. Can you do it?
What if you didn't know about that need?
We can.
So
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. But what I'm saying is that,
I mean, when Jesus came around, there was already societies built and people lost kids. What did they do?
right?
There was millions of people alive before Jesus. What did they do when they lost kids?
Yeah.
I mean, was it the same?
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you.
How did cave people mourn their kids passing?
Mm-hmm.
What did they think? How did they get through it? Because it wasn't Jesus.
They had each other.
Maybe they find themselves. And if that's what God is, then okay.
Yeah, they had each other.
You were saying, I don't know if you'll remember, but you were talking about the spectrum. You were getting into that of belief.
Yeah. So reading this book, and I'm reading this book, and I'm also reading The Way of Mastery, which is a book where someone channeled Jesus, and Jesus is speaking directly to us and kind of cleaning up the
misconceptions, maybe?
Yes. And really talking to us and really stating that we are gods, that we have everything within us to create the life that we want to live. As he is, we are. You always hear me, right? And I was saying that even before I started reading this book. So I'm reading this book, but it does talk about God. Like God exists, right? Jesus existed. God exists. And in this book, God is Father.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to this and, this book, it just fills me. It really does. It just fills me. And I've read, some of it to you and you're like, yeah, like it's great.
Yeah.
Now, when I was first reading it, before I started reading the Demon Haunted World, I was reading this book literally as if Jesus was speaking to me.
Because somebody channeled Jesus.
Right.
That wrote the book.
Right.
Which is the Bible.
And after reading the Demon Haunted World, I'm reading it, but I'm questioning as well. Right? that's not something. Normally it's just I'm diving in. Like I'm reading the Bible, I'm diving in. It's God's word, right? Never questioning, never nothing. It is what it is. So I'm grateful to be reading this, the book that you have me reading, because it's really expanding. Like I feel myself growing. I feel myself expanding and getting to a different level with this book.
What do you think about,
because there's so much that I'm learning right now. Like,
Yeah.
right? I'm reading, okay, you got to question, you got to look into things and really understand things. And the demon haunted world is talking about everything. It's talking about our education. It's talking about religion.
Yeah.
It's talking about history. I mean,
science,
just all
everything.
this stuff that I've never really looked into before.
Or kind of put all these pieces together.
Right. And while I'm reading that book, I'm reading this book.
Yeah.
And then I'm studying the way the brain works, the way the mind works, reprogramming, and all of it is really just coming together. I just see it
but it's a lot
together.
At times.
Yes.
How do you feel? Because it seems like just now you were talking about
we were going to talk about the spectrum.
Yes, how you were reading the book and it's like, this is the word of God and you're not supposed to question. But at the same time, you're reading this other book that seems like it's saying question everything, pretty much.
Right.
How do you feel about, do you still have a feeling like more towards like, I don't want to question, or?
No.
What do you feel is happening?
I feel another awakening is coming on. Right? Like I'm becoming more enlightened. I'm starting to understand things, see things more clearly, and really it's almost like I'm stepping into this knowing of who I am. Right? Like it's empowering. It's I say and I teach and I understand that everything lies within us. You hear me say the kingdom of God lies within you. Ye are gods. Like that comes from the Bible too.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be an or, it could be an and, but I understand that I am the creator. And even if, because we were talking about soul and spirit and if this is it, right? Like if this is it and the soul doesn't exist or spirits don't, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like this is my time to live my best life.
Yeah.
And to create my best life. What is it that I want? And why do I want it? And what am I going to create? It's very empowering, especially learning how the mind works and how the brain works. Because when the more aware I become of myself, I'm recognizing what's been holding me back.
Right.
Like I was sitting in front of the gym. I put a post up. I did a Facebook Live probably for about 20 minutes because I had a coaching session from 9 to 11:30, and normally I get to the gym early, but this day I didn't. I decided to go to the gym after, so it was about like 1:30 or something when I went, and you were going to be coming home an hour later. So I'm sitting in front of the gym and I can feel and hear, like I'm just like totally present with myself, and I'm listening to this inner dialogue that's going back and forth with my subconscious mind and my conscious mind.
Yeah.
Like my conscious mind is like, we're going to the gym because this is what you're doing. You're building a new habit. So we're going. And my subconscious mind is like, no, let's go home. Miguel's going to be, coming
there
home
in a little bit. Yeah.
In a little bit. And it's hot as shit out right now. Let's go back in the AC. You got the kids home. Like, let's go. Yeah. And there's this inner dialogue and this inner fight. And I'm being the witness. It's weird as shit listening to all of this. And just telling my subconscious mind, like, shut the fuck up. Conscious mind, let's go. Okay. And I go into the gym and have a great workout. But it's like the more aware I become and continue to fight, to not give in to the comfort, to not give in to the old programming.
Yeah.
I'm reprogramming and putting in new habits, but you have to continue to do that. You have to continue to have that back and forth and become aware and just know these are the things that I used to do. This is not what I want to do anymore.
Yeah.
Therefore, I have to continue to do the things that I want to do in this moment right now, because the conscious mind lives in the now, in the present moment.
Yeah, I think I said this a couple podcasts ago maybe, but there was a quote that came up that was, the past is a memory, the future is an imagination, the present is the only reality. You know?
Did you make that up?
No. I read that. Yes, I did. No.
Say it 5 times and it's yours.
Yeah, the past is a memory, the future is an imagination, the present is the only reality.
Okay, that's good. I need to put that in a PowerPoint presentation.
And one time, like, I'll say things sometimes that sound just freaking crazy, and I sound crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what I meant by one time I was talking about, like, the war that's happening in the Middle East with Palestine and with the Palestinians and Israel. But it's like that everything that's about to happen hasn't happened yet. Because in our present moment, this is what's happening. Nothing has happened yet. And if everybody just decided to stop, we could stop. I mean, you have to have a huge coordinated effort, but that was just kind of what it is. I know it's impossible to do something like that, but it's just a different thought. But
we were talking about the spectrum. Let's get back to that, because I think that
you were, yeah. Well, part of the spectrum, yeah, and it's
Miguel. You guys got to picture this. Miguel and I are in the kitchen. I'm listening to this book, and I paused it to talk to Miguel about it. And I sit down at the table. He's sitting down at the table, and I'm sharing with him, like, with spirit. I just kind of like got an aha moment, because I was, again, very much religious. And then I went from being religious to spiritual. And when I started getting into the spiritual world, there are some things that I just didn't feel was right for me. Like, I didn't.
As far as religion goes. Like
spirituality, love, because now I shift from religious.
Well, but there was originally things in religion that made you feel a similar way.
Right.
Like, there was things that you would read in the Old Testament and in the Bible that's like, that, I don't know if I agree with that. And it kind of brought you out of religion and into spirituality.
Right. Yeah.
And then
because
once you
God in the Old Testament was angry and wanted us to fear him and killing innocent women, children, and I've already had spiritual experiences and just felt like the God, whatever that is, it's very positive. It's compassion. It's forgiveness. Right. It's this. It's that. But I don't know this God who they're I don't. Yeah. So that's where the confusion, the shift started to take place, and I started to meditate and go within. And then,
so you kind of left religion and entered more just like spirituality.
Right.
But one thing you were saying is that when you left the religion and entered the spirituality, you could feel a difference between and that there's a very distinct line between those two, I feel. And I think that line is whether you could even consider that Jesus may not be God. Because the people on this side of the line are like, no.
This is how
he is.
Right.
He did, he is, this is it.
Right.
Now, they may argue on their own stuff or whatever. Now, if you don't believe that, then you're on the other side. And the other side is, well, maybe Jesus could have been God, and maybe somebody else could have been God, and it's a bunch of other stuff, and maybe stones do stuff, and
Right. It's a
and you
lot.
start getting into the spirituality realm.
Yeah.
So you entered that realm.
Right.
Right?
Right. And in that realm, it's like you're on this, for me, I've just always been seeking.
Right.
Right? Just seeking. Seeking enlightenment, seeking spiritual, just seeking, right?
Truth,
higher consciousness, just
right.
all of that. Connecting to spirit, right?
A knowing.
And I felt like with spirituality, like,
here it is.
yep. But then you start getting introduced to other things, right? Like and all these things are outside of you though, right? Like all these things are outside of you. And I'm learning that it's all inside of me. It's not outside of you. It's all within you. Like that's where I'm at. That's where I feel is true for me, because that's where I'm focusing now is on me. Because in order for me to teach, I have to learn first, right?
I can tell you it's not only true for you.
I know that. But I had to figure that out for me first. And so I get into the spiritual side of things, and there's just all these other things, right? That psychedelics, just all this stuff. There's lots of stuff, right?
Well, there's stones.
Yeah.
There's sage.
There's these things that go back and forth. You have tarot cards. You have muscle tension. But that's
you were telling me like sage.
They believe
bad
removes
energy.
negative energy, and just all this stuff. There's
Rose
so
quartz
much
does something.
stuff. Yeah, there's so much stuff. But for me, it's always been like I've just always felt within. Before I used to say just God would speak to me, higher self would speak to me, whatever, right? And it's like it's all within you. It's all within you. And it's crazy because I would find myself, certain things would feel like, okay, this is for me, this is not for me. But it was always going within, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that when I start working out of that space where I start questioning and seeking confusion, like all this stuff starts to happen. And then it's me having a conversation with me and saying, you need to go within, stop questioning. You need to go within, meditate, question, go within. And I noticed that every time I go within, there's a calm, like there's a peace that comes over me. There's a knowing that comes over me. And then things start just to come together. Like when I was building this PowerPoint presentation, I was sharing this with our friends yesterday.
If I could share something real quick, there's something that we've talked about before that came up, and I don't remember exactly where, but this is something that a lot of people miss, that we've been talking about. You have to do a lot of things to reach this enlightenment, to get to this. Like you have to put the work in.
We think.
You have to.
We do.
You have to cry, you have to throw up, you have to do the mushrooms, you have to drink the tea, you have to go to the shaman, you have to do all these things. But really, you always have to come back to yourself. It never happens by doing any of these things. Like they might help in the experience, but the enlightenment is not going to come from that. It's going to be when you come back to yourself and you sit with all of these things that the enlightenment comes.
Self-reflection, questioning, why am I feeling this way? Why do these same thoughts keep coming up? What's going on? Those are all, and we've talked about this a while back, but it's all, the pain and the suffering is an alarm clock stating that that's something that you need to take a look at.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that every time something like that comes up for me, there is a healing that occurs. There's an awakening that happens. There's a layer that's being removed. And every time that layer is removed, there's a deeper knowing of who I am.
Right. I was sharing with you when you were talking about when you were religious, right? Mm-hmm. And then you left the religious side and you started learning more about the spiritual side.
Right.
Right. And I was telling you, we were talking about how it was your religious side, kind of like what we were saying, that pulled you out of maybe it's what got you on a path.
Yes.
Of getting better, of learning more, of growth. Not of getting better, but of growth. Really.
Like a higher understanding. I don't know.
Just a little bit of a higher understanding
I'm
of
grateful
love.
For that. Yes.
Of love, of growth.
Right.
Of compassion, of empathy, of all that stuff, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it got you to understand, appreciate, and do all of that. But like we said earlier, it doesn't come without its own baggage.
No.
And you had to get through that and get to the spiritual side, and like you had to release the religious stuff, the attachment to the religious stuff, so that you could start learning more from the spiritual stuff. And now you have things from the spiritual stuff that you're having to detach from so that you can continue on your journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because now I'm seeing, like with the spiritual side of it, there's all these things that's outside of you that people run to for healing. They run to for enlightenment. They run to for awakening. And I'm realizing that you don't need all those things.
Yeah.
Right? You don't. And it's funny because I heard this like in India. And when I say this, it's like, for me, it's always been like a download, like God downloading, like I am the vessel. Like I know those are all terms that come from religion. I know that, right? I'm aware of that. And I notice that now that I'm learning about mindset, it's a higher consciousness, right? Like it's a higher consciousness, it's higher self, which I don't even know what higher self means,
awareness.
But like a higher awareness, which is enlightenment. Do you see? It's just like, you're just using different words, man.
Yeah. But
you get to that state where you're talking, it's like one. When you can release, when you reprogram the mind, now I'm going somewhere else. You reprogram the mind, like the subconscious mind, and you start to see it and become aware of it. Yeah. Then you become consciously aware that you can reprogram that subconscious to where you just become one.
Yeah.
And when you become one, this is just something. And when you become one, there's no conversation regarding from your subconscious to your conscious mind, because now you're just fucking conscious. Like you're just aware that you are in control. Like you are in control. You are the pilot. You are the pilot.
Yeah.
Of your
life.
Right. Yeah. And the conversations, I think, become less because you understand that you are in control now.
Yeah.
So it's less of those conversations that you have between.
Back and forth. Yeah.
And it just becomes I am.
Yeah. Either I do or I don't.
But what you and I were sharing is that the people that believe that I am. And I'm not there yet. Like I'm still like, with spirit, with everything that I've been through, I feel that there is a soul, like there is a spirit. Right. And when and even if there's not, like, I'm okay, like I'm going to live this life, the best life that I can, by simply just loving. Like, I feel that my religion, my whatever, it's just love. It's love. I am that.
Right.
Whatever.
That's
just it. I am love. I am that. That is my religion, is love. And love is compassion. Love is forgiveness. Love is empathy. Love is peace. Love is joy. Like, it's all of that just wrapped in one. And that is...
You are love. Yeah.
It.
So you were just saying that you have this... So, like, you're in the spiritual realm, but there is something that, like, you just mentioned it. Like, there is something there.
There's not an attachment, though. Like you said, that
there's not a what?
There's not an attachment there.
Listen.
You listen, Linda.
You had to let go of the religion, right? And we talked about this. To get you to a different place. Mm-hmm. And now the spirituality has helped, and it has helped grow you to a different place. Mm-hmm. But like you've noticed in religion, there are things that, I mean, not in religion, like in spirituality, that people place belief and whatever, like, on things outside of them. Like, mm-hmm. you mentioned, they have these shrines, or they have these stones, or you do these things, or things that just, like, don't have anything to do with you that affect us. You know, like, I'm gonna rub these things together and then something happens, or I look at these little sticks or the cards and something happens. And you're moving out of that. Like, that's just not it. Like, everything is inside.
Right.
And not outside.
Right.
Which kind of, now you're in an even smaller population of people. And we were talking about a friend that I haven't talked to, and that the reason, like, we would mention the name and everything, but I don't really know this person, so I'm not gonna say the name. But it's a friend that is a coach that has, I mean, they are the shit when it comes to, like, helping people get their life on track, figure out what the hell's holding them back, how to, like, harness their power, like, whatever. It seems like he is the fucking man, mm-hmm. right? But there's an attachment to a certain religion.
Hold on. So we don't know that.
We don't know that. That's why I just said that. That's why I'm not saying the name. Let's say this is a person. Mm-hmm. We could use this as a hypothetical person. But they have an attachment to a religion that they see things.
We don't know if they have an attachment.
They see things as people, like, we are pretty much it.
Right.
The attachment to things, to certain religions, they don't really have that. They see everybody as the same. Mm-hmm. But there is this, for some reason, a need to call yourself a something. If that is the case,
yeah,
then you're, like, farther down, maybe, but still there's an attachment to something. And when your only attachment is that we are human, that is it. Mm-hmm. Like, that is, I don't know how you don't see, like, that is the final level. We are it. There is no more. There is no other. It's impossible to explain this the way we did, the way we were talking.
So that's where, like, I just, again, there are experiences that I have had and not just one, not just two, like multiple that still have me believe that there is more than, like, we are, like, I am not this body, right? I am not this body. I feel that there is a soul. I feel that there is spirit, the energy. Like, we are that. We are, yeah. And I don't know yet, right? I don't know yet. And the more I think about it, it really doesn't matter whether there is or there is not. That's why I told you I'm not attached to it. Like, if I find out that there's not,
yeah,
I'm okay with that. There's no fear there.
Yeah.
Of there not being more. Oh, there's no fear there.
It is what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right?
It is what it is. So that's why I say there's no attachment for me. Like, God, this has to be real. God, my world's going to come crumbling down if it's not. I don't feel that way.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I say there's no attachment to it.
Yeah.
And if the truth never comes out, right? Like, if I'm on my deathbed and there's still no proof.
It is what
I'm
it
okay
is.
with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. It is what it is.
Yep.
As long as I'm on that deathbed with no regret.
Yeah.
I'm free.
Yeah, you're good.
Right?
Yep. We were
But I can tell you this, like, when you and I were having this conversation, and it's crazy because I'm feeling more empowered. It's kind of like what you shared, like, what you're capable of. There's a knowing within you that whatever you want to create, you can create. You can live that life. And that all the power lies within you.
Yeah.
That you are it. Like, I was yesterday, this is what I'm speaking. Like, I speak into that. And while I'm speaking into that, I feel I'm in this higher state. Like, every time I'm in front of a room and I'm speaking, I feel that I am in a higher state. Like, I am on this high. And it's very spiritual for me. And I can connect to that whenever I want without taking any psilocybin. I can get to that state.
Do you know what's happening? Have you ever looked it up? Have you ever even Googled, like, what happens when somebody stands on stage in front of people? What happens to your brain?
It's not just,
No, I know it's not.
But
just.
It's not
it
just.
Can't just be.
It's all. No, what I'm telling you is I can get into that state. It's not just when I'm in front of the room. It's when you and I were having a conversation at the table.
I understand, but when you're aware of it and when you're conscious, and yes, most people are not aware, but when you are present and you're aware, you can put yourself into states.
I know that. I don't know where you're coming at, but I know that. That's what I've been studying.
Right.
I forgot now what I was going to say. Oh, the sliver of people that believe that I am and that's all there is, as you were stating, it's a very small sliver of those that believe the way you believe. And you told me, you were telling me, I don't know if you remember, but you're like, why go through all of that when you can just, it's like you can skip all of that and just be here.
Was it a smart person learns from their, you were telling me something about like you have to make your own mistakes or something. And
like
I said a smart
this.
person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from the mistakes of others.
Yeah, you said that. And because you're like, trying to get me to believe the way you believe, like there's no spirit, there's no soul. And I'm like, you are not me. And you have no idea what I've experienced.
I don't. And I told you, like, we've been going through this thing together. Like, as you've been growing, I've been growing. As you've been questioning shit, I've been questioning shit. And we go through our own, paths and journeys through this fucking thing. Like, over the last 5 years, neither one of us are the same.
Yeah. And I told you, like, all these experiences is
so it's like, well, there's a right way to do this and a wrong way. It's like, well, fuck off. Like, it's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's how it happens. When you're both questioning shit at the same. Okay, if I was a philosopher that you fucking married before you got married, then I could guide you through the enlightening process. But I'm sorry I wasn't, and we're figuring this shit out together.
Right. And what I was telling you is that with the coaching that I do right now, I almost feel like these are the experiences that I have to go through, or that I'm not have to, but it's part of my process. It's part of my journey, so that I can relate to those that I'm coaching.
Yeah.
And when I'm doing speaking engagements, I can speak from the heart because I've been through it.
Yeah. So what I was saying earlier about that spectrum, and you were going through the spiritual phase, the spiritual realm or whatever, but one of the things that really keeps you in the spiritual realm is there's a few things. One of them is the connection that you have with people. And that is being explained in a way through some of the stuff that you're learning. The other are the spiritual experiences that you've had, where maybe some of them you're able to maybe question a little bit with the book that you're reading or whatever. But there's always been these things that you hold on to that pull you to a different level, that you hold on to that pull you to a different level. And in this spirituality realm, these are the only things that hold you to that. Because if it wasn't for these, it wouldn't even be like a thing. It's like, well, I don't know. It is what it is. That's what you would be saying. I don't know. It is what it is. And I was asking you, like, if you really look at these things that happen, where somebody was saying, I'm so proud of you, I'm so proud of you, I'm so proud of you, and you know for a fact that it came from your sister. Like, I was asking you, like, how did that happen? Like, how did they do it? Like, when you sit in front of somebody and you just get a download and you tell them something that is personal to them, you don't know how you did it. I'm like, how did that happen? How did you do that? You don't know. There's all these things that we'll just never know. But there's an attachment to wanting it to be a spiritual thing as opposed to a thing that can be explained. And then when you get down to the end of the spectrum, you realize that this is it. And that is the full detachment and acceptance of what is. Like, if you really think about it, you're literally just accepting things as they are. You're not adding to, you're not making more. I'm just willing to accept it as it is. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the most basic way to explain, like, the whole enlightenment process. Like, it is what it is. And the knowing is part of the unknown. It's the yin and the yang. Mm-hmm. Like some things are known and some things are not, and some things will never be known. I don't know. It's very hard to kind of like wrap your mind around, or at least for me, because it's just been happening recently, but to like explain everything. But once you know how things are and what life is, like you were saying, you don't want to do things for any other reason than that you want to do them. Even the things that you don't want to do, you do them because ultimately you want to do them and you know that they're good for you and you value them. Mm-hmm. A lot of these things that hold us back sometimes are things that have expectations of us, things that get us wrapped into stuff that make us think that we want to be like other people. That, I mean, like if you start going to church, you're not a good Christian if you don't show up every Sunday. So you got to start doing that. Or if you don't tithe enough, or if you like, you got to, and then there's these expectations. It's like, hold on a second. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to do. Of course I want to do nice things. It's scientifically proven. It feels good to you to do nice things for other people. So you could do it selfishly. Still a good thing, you know?
And we're talking about religion, but there are many areas where we're having to do things because of a system that is built.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we are part of that system. We are part of that matrix.
Yep.
Right? We've just been talking about the religion and the spiritual side of it, but there are many areas in our lives.
No, the countries, the politics. Yeah.
Our educational system. There's just so much.
At the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I really, it just doesn't make sense to me how a God immediately just splits people up. Like, these are people, like, that's my land. And anybody that lives there is right. And those are my people. And I know there's technicalities back and forth or whatever, but I mean, it could have just been a lot simpler.
But it wasn't supposed to be that way.
It wasn't supposed to be that way. I don't think he intended it to be that way. And guess what? It is so much simpler. It is so much simpler. It is what it is, and we are it. Mm-hmm. This is it. You want like the answers to fucking life? It is what it is. We are it. This is it.
Have fun.
And that's it.
Have fun. Make the best of it.
Yeah.
Make the best of it.
And with that,
share a book.
make sure you guys go to our website, oppositesattractpodcast.com. Like we said before, share the Clips channel with somebody else. Follow Fighting for Your Life podcast, also on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else. Check that out. We just had Street Beefs, West Coast on there. We had Wedo on there. We're going to be going out to one of his fights and check out some backyard fights. Yeah, they got a really cool crew. We watched like a video of their community that they have back there, people throwing down. Yeah, make sure you guys subscribe.
The reason why they do it, what is it called? Guns down.
Their motto is guns down, gloves up. So it's just to kind of like reduce street violence. And if you have a problem, like in the video that we watched, it was like people in the neighborhood. They had some beef on Facebook. Dude talking about this guy's mom. The other dude said something about his wife, and they ended up throwing down in the guy's backyard. So we might see some stuff like that. Make sure you guys check it out. Like we said before, comment, subscribe, let people know that the podcasts are out there.
Yes. Thank you guys for your love. Thank you for your support. And thank you for watching Opposites Attract podcast.
Or we got better.
Together.
Bye.